the meeting to order. The Laredo Convention and Visitors Bureau. We begin with our roll call. Raymond Camina.
Present.
Elizabeth Flores.
Present.
Judith Gutierrez.
Present.
Richard Malver.
Present.
Bethany Luna. I believe she's coming.
She's on her
way. Janie Martinez. Marisa Ramirez. Present. Magali Rodriguez. Alejandro Villarreal.
Present.
We don't have any excused absences at this time.
No.
No motion to excuse members, so we then move over to the approval of the minutes for the November 7th meeting, which is on page 2.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion carried to approve the minutes from the November 7th, 2019 meeting. Do we have any public or citizen comments at this time? No? Okay, moving on to reviewing the year-to-date financial statements. That should be on page 4, I believe.
Yes, and
And the attachment, right?
There was a page.
Yeah, the attachment.
We are in the first, ending the first quarter of our fiscal year, and we saw the numbers are consistent to where we have seen it before in the increase, the average daily rate, even though our occupancy is consistent, our average daily rate keeps increasing, so that helps a lot with the hotel occupancy taxes.
how did you all do with occupancy in December? When will you have those figures?
We'll have them, the official ones, we'll have them mid-January to the end of January. It usually comes to the end of this following month, but unofficial figures, we had a good showing, especially during the Paisano weekend. But we'll have the official figures in the next report. Great.
I'd like to make a note that Ms. Magali Rodriguez is watching in. Welcome, Magali.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Do we have any other questions or comments as far as the financial statements? Moving over to the introduction of our City of Laredo Airport Director, Mr. Jeffrey Miller. Welcome to our meeting, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. I know I've met some of you already before, but it's a pleasure to be here. 8 months now in Laredo, so the temperature now is getting a little bit closer to where I was from, Pittsburgh, most recently. Especially this morning. Well, maybe not.
To the spring in Pittsburgh?
Yes, this is summer in Pittsburgh right now. I should have started with that. But no, I'm very happy to be here. Everybody's been extremely friendly and welcoming to the community, and we work very closely with Eileen as everything we do works in conjunction with one another. So my kind of background, I've been in aviation for 16 years, 7 airports, and most recently now here, but kind of bounced around the country. I have a bachelor's degree in aviation management and a master's degree in aviation finance. Also a licensed private pilot. For me, this is a passion probably more than it is a career. But the city has a beautiful facility. The airfields, the bones of the airport are some of the best I've seen. The runways, the taxiways, and the improvements that we see put into it. And I think the critical part, and sometimes what gets lost, is you have to have that foundation really to build from there, whether that's cargo service, commercial, general aviation. So now we're starting with that good footprint. We're working on better marketing for the airport and what we do today. So rather than just focusing on one sector, we're constantly working with the cargo operators. We're unique, right, with the Mexico, U.S. Customs, and how can we leverage that to change the dynamics of it to make it more appealing and available for different industries. Which obviously is a legislative branch. We're closely with the mayor, with the city council, and going to Mexico City. We've been there many times to try to help that program move it along and really get people to understand it. From my background, I didn't know it existed. When I got here, it's like, Mexico Customs on U.S. soil, wait a second, what's happening? And so, just to give people that edification of the program, but, we're kicking off some exciting things. We're doing an economic impact study that's going on right now at the airport to give us the actual effect of direct, indirect, and induced for the facility. There's been not much of a macro approach to that before. The state has done some 30,000 foot views of the facility. But it's more for the community. When I come in, I hear, so what if we get $8 million for a ramp? I'm not flying. Well, even if you don't, there's still those direct dollars going into the community. So if we can show that effect, because the other thing to keep in mind is that's 90% funded by the FAA. So 10% coming from airport revenue funds, not even from the taxpayers. It's from user fees that are established at the airport. So it's just getting that information out there. One of the other kind of exciting things that we've been doing here is, when I came into this, even to this point, I tell people I work in an airport, they say, oh, you must be a pilot. And I say, well, yeah, but I don't fly for a living, just for recreation. And then the next thing they say, oh, give me a deal on airline tickets. Which I'm the last person they're going to get a deal to. But people just don't understand the opportunities that are in aviation today. And the exciting things about it, 15 years ago, they kind of refer to it as a lost decade. 2000, 2010, recession, 2001 with 9/11. It was kind of a bleak time to really be a part of, if you're going to be a pilot or an engineer or a mechanic. I'm happy to say that's pulled a complete 180, and there's a huge need for pilots. There's a huge need for maintenance technicians, engineers, administrative people like myself. So we've been working with Laredo College and TSTC, which is the Texas State Technical College. They have a program out of Waco, Texas, about bringing something here to Laredo, flight school, aircraft mechanics, because these are also high-paying jobs. They're usually six-figure jobs that people in the community can get access to. And somebody like me, when I was young, at one point in my life, somebody explained to me what you can do in aviation, and then if you get students involved and you get them to see what the possibilities are, that's the exciting potential. And then you have those people that are in Laredo that have access to those jobs, that can stay in Laredo, that, if you work, you can work for United, you can work for American, and you can live in Laredo. Those are the type of things that people don't understand if they haven't been a part of it.
I think that's interesting because I don't think any child has ever explained aviation and the possibilities of aviation in this in this time.
Right. Yeah. Well, even
I was never
right. Well, even at the airport too, the things that we're looking at right now is we as the airport haven't done a good job of explaining it, and especially after 9/11, complexes became Area 51s. Right. Oh, don't come here. Don't. So we're talking, now about, an overlook area, a little park, come out. Programs, we've been working with the Eagle Scouts, with the fixed base operators, to come and actually experience it. We do have a flight school at the airport today, many people don't know that, but it's overbooked. They have 27 students in the backlog. So if you have an actual educational institution like a Laredo College or a TSTC, because they're education oriented, they can look towards, Pell Grants and have that structure for maybe students that, could have that, okay, being a pilot can be expensive. There's a lot of flight time, you can incur debt, but if I have the opportunity to make, $150,000, $180,000 in my career, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, those are some of the exciting things that we're trying to move towards, to have that, that the community be involved in the airport. It's their asset, and of course I'd love them to fly too. And our traffic this year is up, and the numbers are still shaking out from the employments and with this passengers in and out of the facility. If there's nobody superstitious in the room, we're looking right now about 6.66%. For the year. It's probably going to vary a little bit as the official numbers come through. But that's important to keep people moving in those flights. When we look at what we do today, I go and I talk to the airlines frequently when they'll talk to me. And we have a unique story in Laredo. We have American and United, and we have Allegiant. Allegiant being an ultra low cost carrier, has higher load factors, usually nearing towards the 90% range. So 90% of the plane is full. That's the fare that's competitive to San Antonio. You're talking Las Vegas, low fees, that we see the higher load factor. You get American United, we're such a heavy business-oriented community, and with the business community, they're less price sensitive to flight ticket prices. So we see lower load factors. We see 65% on a United and American.
But higher prices.
But higher prices, so it's a higher yielding flight. So, when we talk to the airlines, it's, we're really happy in Laredo, we're happy with the way the flights are going because we can send a flight out at 65% full and make as much money as we could at 90% at a different airport. So it's going back and talking to them, and we've been successful in dropping the fees down a little bit. I was actually surprised yesterday. UPS came and talked to me and said they got a ticket to here to Nashville the other day for $100 less than San Antonio. So I was like, that's great, man. Because the pricing models with the airlines, they're very specific, unique. But what we told them was, when you look at the business community, a lot of times these are last-minute purchases. Within a couple of weeks, within a month. We see an opportunity there for you to continue that route, but also give the leisure traveler a little more of an opportunity to fly on your routes. So we've seen both of them come down. We're still working with them, but they've been receptive to give us a salesperson with each airline, which is good for us to work with. United right now has some initiatives where they're targeting certain demographics, millennials, colleges, and so we're saying, do you have a presence, Laredo College, Sammy, and stuff like that. So rather than just kind of sit back and let them, sit there and nothing happen, we're trying to take a proactive approach. And so that's where we work closely with, Eileen as well. And marketing, we're kicking off a social marketing campaign here pretty soon to just get the word out. Our website, if you've been to it, is very atrocious. It's a very industrial feel. People, it doesn't give the flyer really what they're looking for, even our tenants that are more detailed. So we have a redesigned website that hopefully here in the next week or two will be kicked off. One of the exciting things about it, and I've done this in my past life, is we're adding in a price comparison calculator. I think realistically, you look at the fares at San Antonio, we're not probably going to be on that same playing field as them because they're a larger airport. That's just how the industry's built. But if we can give a true estimate to people of here's the fare-based price, but here's what it's going to cost you to drive here, here's what it's going to cost you to park there if you get a hotel. And all those are parameters that people can put in. You necessarily can't compete if, my brother Larry's going to drive me up for free, and okay, well, that's probably going to be more competitive.
Howdy.
Hi.
Hey.
No, thank you. Sorry, real quick.
Almost didn't recognize him with the beard. Who's coming in here? No, so it's a true calculator. It's not going to lie. As we run it, and if you're realistic about, they put in what the fare price is, it's going to give you back a realistic. Okay, here's what it's going to cost you to go to San Antonio rather than fly from Laredo. So those are some tools I think that the community have, and that's something that we can do better on our end to promote that message of, the service that we have today and, using it and why it's a benefit versus others. But, along with the economic impact study, we're also doing a land use development study. If you come to the airport and you've seen the properties, it's kind of a hodgepodge of items. Back in the day, it was, you're lucky to get anything at the airport, so just take whatever you can get. Even the city has stuff, the dog pound is there. And so, it creates that environment where you're kind of, okay, what was our goal here? What are we looking to do? So the land use development study gives us that map, that roadmap of how to write that. When we look at vacant property and we look at existing property, things like schools, churches, do they make a lot of sense at an airport, or does it make more sense to have industrial, commercial, those things that are especially less sensitive to noise? In this country too, non-aeronautical revenue is what those would be considered is a huge factor for airports, because they are not, this is a special revenue fund in the city of Laredo, is what's referred to as, so it doesn't take out of the general fund, it produces its own money. So, the funds that we develop off of land, and fees is what goes into us developing, a ramp or a taxiway. Because when we get $8 million from the federal government, which is great, we have to come up with $800,000. It's about 10% match to what we do. So it's great to have those improvements into the infrastructure, but we have to have the means to make that work. So that will give us an opportunity. We had a public workshop. We had people from the community that came out and kind of said, here's what we see the airport would do and turn into. But once again, it's getting people involved in the airport and getting the community involved and getting excited. And I think we have some really good stuff coming down the road. We have some announcements, I think, coming up here at the end of the month that will be exciting. But are there questions about the airport and what we do and things we can do better?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a couple. Just a couple. First of all, I have a lot of history with the airport.
Yes.
I inaugurated it.
Oh, did you?
But I didn't participate in the actual going after it except as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I inaugurated it, the city staff was preparing the plaque with the current city council and mayor. And I said, no. I said, we need the plaque with the people that worked on it. And so we have 2 plaques at the airport, if you'll notice on the far end.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was the first time that was ever done because, people weren't thinking about the work that it takes to acquire that kind of funding
Right.
and that kind of attention from the federal government, especially FAA. So, and number 2, the monies that have been gotten have always been very competitive. If we wouldn't go to Washington, our file would be in the bottom desk. That's just the way it is. And Joe Flores for a long time was intimate friends with a lot of the people that wrote the checks. I'm sure you're following that same path and even better, because now there's a whole new slew of people that I've met. The one thing that I think we have failed to do in the community, and you mentioned it, was promote it to the people in Laredo. And the main reason is because the flights don't go to places that interest us in the more, not the long vacation type, but I'm going to San Antonio, I'm going to see my son at A&M. We have a whole college, a whole university of people that drive up to A&M because they can't fly. And they go often. And we're missing that opportunity. But we've never been able to get those 2 airlines to compete with their San Antonio and other markets. And like Southwest told me, why would I want to compete with myself when everybody will drive to San Antonio to take me? Why do I want to go to Laredo? But I think along the line, we as a community have to convince those airlines that it isn't just competition. The other thing is service. I planned for the first time a very long family trip this summer to Hawaii. And we were leaving out of here to Houston. No, I'm sorry. Leaving out of here to Dallas and from Dallas to Hawaii. The flight from here was canceled. And it was a 12 o'clock in the afternoon flight. So, had I not gotten the message because I signed up for alerts, had I not gotten the alert that my flight had been canceled and took off to San Antonio, I would have missed my entire trip because my entire trip was based on those connections. And there was no weather anywhere. Even the ticket agent who I was talking to on my way to San Antonio, to be sure that I had the connection going, even they were all going like, we have no idea. That happens, I thought it was a very rare, I've talked about it, and let me tell you, it's happened to people before. They will never fly out of Laredo again, period. Period. No, but let's talk, period. I'm going to Italy next year. I'm not so sure. I'm just not so sure that I want to do that.
Right.
As accommodating as it is, because when you come home, you don't want to have
Drive
to
2
get in the
hours.
car and drive 2 hours, exactly. And so that kind of service issues that they have with small towns, and I don't think Laredo is the only one. I think they either have to be explained or they have to take care of somehow they have to take care of it.
Right.
Somehow. And I think it's very unfair to people to have to go through that. Very unfair. We barely made it, barely. And DPS, not DPS,
TSA?
it was a sheriff that stopped us near Pearsall. And he saw how drastic, how, nervous we were. He said, go, just be safe. He didn't even give us a ticket.
I just lived through that this week because we went to Orlando, and Allegiant flies from Laredo to Orlando. I didn't risk it.
They don't fly.
They don't fly anymore?
No.
Oh, I didn't even check.
Right.
I didn't even check it. I thought they still did, so I didn't even check it. But because of the mentality that you just said, I don't want to risk not getting there and getting stuck, because I've heard that people get stuck here when they're going to Vegas or that airline.
Right.
So I didn't even check to see if they had flights. I just went directly to fly out of San Antonio and drive.
And I know some people are flying out of Austin because the flights are direct.
A lot cheaper.
This whole thing, they're a lot cheaper, and they are willing to drive to Austin and take the flight from there.
And that's a
These
long
are
drive.
family members that do that. And the thing is that you risk also. You fly from Laredo, American Airlines, or United. I mean, one goes to Houston, one goes to Dallas. You don't know what's going to be going on over there.
Oh, the weather in Dallas.
And so then you start to contemplate the hours that you're losing, going back and forth, flying to Houston or flying to Dallas, so they want more. But the thing with Austin is that you get the direct flight to wherever you're going, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
So people are willing to do it. So
Right.
Anyway, I know those things, burn in your
It's
and
so.
it's difficult to control. But I think having community involvement and having community communication, because people don't know that their taxes aren't paying for that airport.
Right.
And so they feel entitled because it's their tax money. They see this huge building, and for many people, maybe 1 or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, and then they see that they're not getting the service. Thank God that we have very good agents, very good. I mean, I couldn't ask for better agents. They're all Laredoans, they're all very friendly, they help you out as much as possible. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have any local connection. Plus, Viva Laredo, the airport, man, who doesn't go to eat there, even if you're not flying. How many airports have that distinction? So anyway, we do things, some things very well, but I know the airlines are sort of out of our control. So the closer you can get to them, and the more connections that you can make at the highest possible level to where they feel it when you feel it,
Right.
The better it is.
Right. I mean, delays are something. It's not unique to Laredo. And to your point of Austin, realistically, Laredo doesn't have the population size to be an Austin airport, right? So when deregulation happened in 1978, the federal government said, okay, we're not going to regulate the airlines and tell them where they have to go, which is what it was in 1978. after 1978, it was up to the airlines to say, okay, what's profitable and what isn't. And that's where they developed what's called a hub and spoke system. Hub and spoke is you go to a hub with everybody. So Laredo, Lubbock, all these towns go to Dallas, and then they get on a larger aircraft and they go to the airport that they're serving. Even most recently, I worked at Pittsburgh International Airport, and our population around there is about 2.5 million. We had roughly about 9 million passengers a year. But even flights to, Reagan National or to New York could still be the same type of aircraft you would see in Laredo. Those regional aircraft have become, critical to the airlines. We do track the delays in and out of Laredo. I've been delayed there several times, but I've been delayed at every airport I've been, and it's tough. It's a difficult situation. And like you said, they are private entities. And so the airport, let's say in the instance of a delayed flight, one of the hard things I think would be for us is to try to come up with something that, as a community, we could be proactive for notifying maybe those passengers. Obviously, the website's going to have the information based off of they officially canceled the flight, but say like the airport, and we've seen this with accident investigations, right? The airlines are very tight with who's on their aircraft and who's flying. So we never know who's on what plane and what they're doing. We don't have access to the manifest. So, when we start talking about delayed flights, when we look at the data and we go and we talk to the airlines, Laredo, I'll just say it is the same as most airports when you talk delays. I think what happens here is because of the frequency of flights, because it is a smaller community, at an airport where you have a delay and you have more flights coming in, they can usually move an aircraft around to get you out sooner.
Sure.
But, over the summer, and we've seen this in the national news, there were some issues. Even Congress got involved with American Airlines on a holistic approach across the country with their maintenance staff, right? They were still, to this point, or even in union negotiations and contracts with their mechanics. So there was national news stories about, was there an official slowdown, what happened, and that I can't speak to that day. I mean, a lot of times people say there's no weather on my route, but your plane obviously, right, is coming from somewhere. The plane that you're on is probably flying, 9 routes that day, so it could be somewhere else where something's happening. So it's really difficult to say in those instances. I can say with Allegiant, if you haven't flown Allegiant in a while, they've actually improved dramatically over the last 3 years. They had the McDonnell Douglas series aircraft, the MD-80s. They phased all those out as of last November.
That's good.
Now they have all their Airbus A320s. So, and we were just with Allegiant actually, and their customer satisfaction scores have gone up to above Delta Airlines, which is surprising. So there's been a cultural change at Allegiant. It's not saying, obviously it's equipment, right? But the delays, the issues that they had before busing to McAllen, we haven't seen that since I've been here in the last 8 months. There have been delays, of course. One of the frustrating things I think with Allegiant is their delays get extended because they do have unique schedules comparative to other airlines. Allegiant is by nature not an airline, they're a travel company. So Allegiant sells a package, right? So they fly unique schedules twice a week, right? Most airports. So when there is a delay and you start talking about a replacement aircraft, usually it has to come from some other route, and then they have to squeeze that in because they're running a very tight schedule. Where, like in a United American, it's more readily available, even to a Laredo, to get a rescue aircraft in there. But there are positive things that are happening, and to your point, absolutely, you have to stay in the communication with them and explain to them what's happening. It happens to me a lot. Over the summer, United, and it wasn't United's fault, I think that's probably part of the edification, but it's an industry that I know. The city of Houston was redoing their runway, so they closed down a runway, so Houston just became a mess for all flights. Even the mayor and I were traveling a lot at that point, and we joked we're not going to make it. And I think, May, you were on one of those trips where we didn't make it to Mexico City till 8 hours after we were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
The runway construction's over now, but it's one of those difficult things in the industry right now that they trickle through. But I absolutely agree that, I think that there's things that we could do obviously better. I'm hoping, at least with the dissemination on the website, that information will get out there. But, one of the hard things, too, is as a traveling passenger, you have to get them that message, because if I'm traveling and I don't know, I'm going to go to the airline's website, right? I'm going to say, hey, what's going on here? Not necessarily my first thought going to be the airport's website, but they do have those programs in place now. We said, I do the text messages, maybe for the community, then we could do some outreach to tell them, hey, there are these notifications that can come through. But
And the last thing I will speak to is you're getting the children involved,
Yes.
the young people involved. That's very important. Before I was mayor, I'm a recovering banker. And I was a banker for many years, and I started a program called Hooked on Books. And our very first prize for the 75 children that won the contest was to fly them on Laredo Air to SeaWorld. SeaWorld had just opened in San Antonio, so you can imagine how many years ago that was. But I still see those people, those young kids, and they recognize me. I don't recognize them. But they tell me that some of them, since then, they have never ever flown again.
yeah.
Their life is in this community, and they've never had a need to fly. And others have said that, that it opened their eyes to a lot of things. So it's amazing how just little programs like that really, if you can get together. I know United and American both have programs for young adults. If you can coordinate with them and maybe fly some kid
No,
for perfect attendance to,
yeah, absolutely.
or for extra grades to somewhere.
Right.
Of course, in Laredo, you have to take the whole family.
We'll charter a plane for them.
But I'm glad that you're paying attention to that population, because that is the future
Oh, yeah.
of our small community airflow. Now, when we talk about Laredo's 260,000 people, you have to include the million in Nuevo Laredo. Maybe not everybody, because obviously the economic situations are different, but there is a large community of people that would fly.
So we actually have really good, it's called T100 data that we get from the Department of Transportation that covers who's flying from where and where they're going. So their originating zip code to their destination. So we can show what we talked about before. We can show the leakage to San Antonio, and we can show the leakage to Austin, and have a really good idea about that. One of the issues that we have when we talk to the airlines is what they refer to as a catchment area. Catchment areas are usually, it's a radius around an airport, usually somewhere between 80, 90 miles, 75 miles. One of the unique things about Laredo, to your point, is we get cut in half, so we're basically a half moon, because the airlines say, well, we don't count Mexico. And so when I first got here, that's what the problem was. And so the census, the amount of people, we go a little on the conservative, safe side, I'd say around 400 to 500,000. But what we started doing internally is we actually have passenger surveys, because that T100 data only tracks who's in the United States. But obviously, we can go through the parking lot, we can see that there's Mexico license plates. So we can show, like the last time we spoke to Allegiant, we can say, we see up to 25% on some of these flights, people coming all the way even from Monterey to use Allegiant.
That's right.
And so we can paint that picture and try to, look, we can show you that people are coming across the border to use Laredo. And, what's happened, unfortunately, in New Laredo recently, there's been people that don't want to use the airport there. And the flight schedules in New Laredo they've been drawn back, dramatically by Aeromexico. There's only one flight that I know of right now, which is a 3 p.m., I think, 3 p.m. arrival, like around a 5 departure area, somewhere around there.
Yeah, three, you get here at 5.
What, Mexico City?
Yeah.
You leave at 5. It comes in at 3 and you leave at 5.
Yeah. So,
At 5, yesterday.
yeah, and so obviously it's not a very attractive flight to the business
3
community.
and 5.
So, we've seen
Not so
some,
much.
Okay.
and the other thing that we've seen, honestly, from the surveys, which was surprising to us, which is good for us to have that information when we go and talk to the airlines, is a lot of people in Mexico want to go through the bridge system, let's say like on Allegiant, rather than going to Las Vegas and going through customs. So that's another marketing tool that we can
Yeah,
use.
they've done it.
Right, that's
Oh, customs at the bridge says customs.
right. So now they
Flight.
can come get
Yeah,
on a
they've
flight
done
to
it.
Laredo, and now they can just go as a domestic passenger, and that saves them time. And so those are good key talking points that we have with them. But one of the things that that could help with this group that we've talked about, and I know Eileen's working on it, is the hotel motel tax. In most communities, you see there's marketing that's put, destination marketing for the airport, because obviously, as we talked about at the beginning, there's a big tie-in here to, heads and beds, the community itself, and Laredo, and families that are coming to visit their family members. We're working through some of the long loopholes and legality stuff with the hotel motel tax, but we see that as being an avenue to promote both kind of sides of the world.
That's very important, this International Sports Hall of Fame thing that they had this weekend. I spoke to at least 25 people that flew in from El Paso to that ceremony, and from El Paso and I don't know, Pittsburgh, some other place, but they came to that. So it was a huge population of heads and beds, because that was just 3 tables that I talked to, and from families that came to celebrate, their grown-up people that were getting the awards. And
They flew from El Paso, or they flew to El Paso.
From El Paso.
to-
From El Paso to
Laredo.
Laredo. You can imagine
Can you
that.
imagine what the, how they put
Yeah.
it to get here?
Dallas.
Paso, Dallas,
Yeah.
Laredo, Paso, Houston.
Yeah.
The triangle.
Yeah.
It's okay. Some of my tickets have had me ending in El Paso. I'm like, I'm going to Laredo. We work with our travelers. I gotta go to Laredo. I don't want to end in El
It's
Paso.
crazy.
Yeah, they do that.
But no, I think when we keep very good track of what we can see in the trends. We have as a collection of data. We target each airline with individual specifics. Like right now, we see a lot of one-way tickets happening, and that's from the trucking industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so a company will pay somebody. I talk to people on the plane all the
Come
time.
pick up your truck.
Yep, they'll come down from Ohio.
Houston and Dallas are
Yeah,
always,
they'll
those,
come. Yep.
yeah.
Or oil fields. So.
Right. Yeah. So it's an interesting phenomenon, because then you have one. You typically in the industry you don't see a one-way ticket. Usually somebody's going back at some point. So it's interesting, and it's one of those things that if we can pontificate a little bit further on why that's happening with the airlines and explain it. And then work too within the community to target those individuals, and that's what United's doing, right? United's trying to get people hooked on their Mileage Plus program, and that, okay, maybe you're flying for business now, but look at the incentives you could have to fly for leisure. So
For a very long time, we had a treetop flight from the valley that stopped in Laredo, not every flight, but I think twice a day. They flew from the valley to Laredo to San Antonio and Austin. So you can imagine all
Oh, yeah,
that.
bottle
And that's
jumping.
why it was
Yeah.
just a little treetop thing
yeah,
that they
yeah.
had. But it was always full, always full.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like Richard Branson said: if you want to be a millionaire in the airline industry, start as a billionaire. There's been so many consolidations. When we look at the industry today, we have 4 main airlines: Delta, United, American, and Southwest, and they hold 83% of the traveling public in the United States. And when you look at all the rest of that 17%, you have your JetBlues, your Frontiers, your Allegiants. And so the airlines, for the first time, which is good when we start talking about the industry as far as young people moving into it, it's finally at a point where it's making a lot of money. Airlines are making typically billions of dollars per quarter. Right, we all have the fees that we see now. Back when the bags were free, right? You charge for the bag. At some point, they'll probably be charging for the lavatory. But
That would be the.
yeah, $1.
Papers next.
But it is.
Mexico and
It's,
Mexico.
Right.
The other thing I wanted just to quickly mention, right before September 11th, John Adams and I were working with Texas A&M University in
Right.
College
Bryan,
Station.
College Station, to bring a pilot training program to Laredo. And we were this close.
Right.
And then September 11 hit
And
and
that was-
everything went to pot.
Well, and that's part of, so on Monday, myself
So
and the
you
mayor,
can-
that's, yeah, so with TSTC, they actually have the program right now up in Waco. And so that's where we're looking at potentially a partnership between LC, TSTC, and, you know, facility the airport. Because the other thing we have right now is we do have a flight program, so we even, talk to them about, they have, aircraft, they have a backlog of students. And, one of the exciting things, and we're once again trying to promote the business, working, hand in hand here. We're down in Mexico, and one of the unique things in Mexico when you talk about flight training is, in the United States, it is a public use system. So whether you're flight training or whether you're American flying out, everybody gets equal access to the runways. In Mexico, that's not the case. In Mexico, if you're flight training and there's commercial flights that say, well, you go wait, and I'll let you know when you can go. And so it's hard for them to get people to train in Mexico to be flights. Now, the interesting thing is, so we're talking to this individual, they own 5 flight schools throughout Mexico. They want to bring a flight program to the United States. In Mexico right now, they only recognize that if you get trained and you're a pilot, you have to be trained in Mexico. Well, they've started a program with Aeromexico, which has ties to the government, right, where they're training in Arizona because of exactly what's happening.
Right.
So this individual saying, hey, wait a second. So that's another conversation. We start talking lobbying and legislative. There's some things that have to change in
Right.
Mexico, but that's a huge opportunity for flight training.
Great.
Very good information.
Oh, no, thank you. When Tackle comes next month, you tell him I was better than he was.
It's on the record.
I'm better than you.
Well, I hope you don't be a stranger because we can all help you
Oh, absolutely.
with your goals.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the comments.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make note that Miss Bethany Luna walked in a little earlier, so welcome to the meeting. Thank you. And moving right along, we're going to just, overall, for the November and December activity reports, does anybody have any questions or any particular comments on any of those reports? I do want to congratulate Mr. Joel for being promoted for the assistant
Thank you, Madam Chair.
director's position.
How
Congratulations. How exciting.
Thank you, thank you.
Yield the curtain.
No,
New
we have,
office, new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, new office.
How are you all enjoying your new office space?
we're still not fully enjoying it because it's still a little bit under construction. But we're already there. We're getting comfortable. We're finalizing some details, but we're looking forward to having our meetings there, to welcoming everybody there. It's a great space, and we just want to make sure it's all done before we
But
can.
all your communication systems are up?
All the
Those are all-
communications, it's functional. We're working from there, it's
Okay.
completely functional. It's just we have the workers next to us.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, they're like painting on something. But everything is functional. We've been working from there since, what, December 16, 14?
The week before was like moving.
Yes.
About December.
So, yeah.
Where do
we
you
were
all
full-
park?
We park at the outlets
The employees
surface.
parking?
Yeah, the employee parking exactly for the outlet. The outlet did offer, so that parking is covered by us. It was actually a negotiation with the outlet. So we offer that parking at no cost for CBB employees. And, but there's an option that any employee that wants to park in the covered lot, the outlet is giving them a special pricing in case they want something closer.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
some
So
of
we want to
the-
go to the outlets, we can park at your station and go.
But we will
Just
have,
post it on social media.
so right now,
Did you know?
We will have that option of validating your ticket, so you won't have to worry about the meters during the meetings anymore. So you'll be able to park at the covered lot at the outlet,
I'm
and we'll
telling
be
you,
able to
the
validate.
meters, I mean, it's just so expensive, to park anywhere. I mean, and the thing is that for a quarter, you have what, 12 minutes?
Mhm.
I mean, it's 12 minutes. I mean,
It's very
it's very expensive, because if you're gonna be there at least an hour or two,
If there is any complaint from downtown anywhere,
The parking.
it's parking. It used to be the lack of parking, now it's the parking fee.
they got rid
Now it's
of.
both, lack of parking and whatever it charges you to park.
No, but the thing is that the employees that were working downtown, I mean, they would use it, and because it was so inexpensive, I mean, they would just, But now it's so expensive, and I guess they solved the problem,
Right.
they're moving elsewhere. But,
So-
oh my gosh, the rest of the people that come shopping downtown is,
Some of the chinitos have told me that if they're selling their product for whatever it is, and for instance, say you have a product for sale at your store, if someone had to pay a fee to come and shop at your store, that in their mind, they add that to the price of the product, whatever that cost was. So it's saying it's like
That they
people
add
think,
it?
in
They add
their
it.
mind, they add on the cost
Oh, yes.
of their parking cost,
Yes.
their parking fee. So they're saying it's not worth it to shop downtown. It wouldn't be worth it for you, for anybody to come and shop at your store if they had to actually,
Pay for parking.
Pay for parking.
pay. So it's like, why even go?
a lot of people have stopped coming downtown.
And that's not a good thing at all. That needs to be kept in mind.
One thing that I've been hearing from several people that have little shops in downtown is that now they're moving to La Pulga Blanca. The stores.
Oh,
are like-
they get more
Yes.
people going there.
Yes.
They are like you have the full like chinitos store like
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a lot of.
set up and it's
they have
Yeah,
a-
they're all new stuff in there at the Puebla Blanca. All new stuff. You can get whatever you want to at the
deciding to
outlet
close
mall.
downtown and move
And
over
they
there
have a lot
when
of
it's
this-
only 2
and
days,
they have a
3 days out of the week.
kids.
And they
Well,
make
you'll
more
be
money.
like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I think.
Yeah.
And they
Everything.
make more money in that.
And they provide transportation.
I've seen the,
Over there.
I've seen the minibus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It even
How was the paisanos? Everything I saw was,
We had-
a lot of them.
Yes, we had, the numbers reflect either lower or the same as last year, but in the pattern that they came, it just
It's
seemed
waves, right?
way more, yes.
Oh, like everybody came at the same time.
We had, in the caravan, there was more people than last year, there was 1,000,
300?
1,200, 1,200,
1,300.
1,300 vehicles that were at the Walmart at one point. It just overflowed.
That's just a lot of vehicles.
We usually get there, because we service some things there at the caravan, and we usually get there to set up after they meet here with mayor. A lot of mayors come from Mexico and meet with mayor, and we usually go after that, and they're barely setting up. This time, they had already crowded the area where they were supposed to set up, had to move vehicles. People were already overflowing into the plazas
I think,
next
I
door.
think a lot of that had to do with the
The mid-
insecurity.
Yeah.
People want to come and
And I'm
Travel
sure,
together.
I'm sure that the tent out there, where there was Mexican customs, right?
We had Mexican customs,
I'm
yes.
sure that they use that a lot instead of wasting time here and just, crossing and trying to get out of Laredo as soon as possible.
And they have, so a lot of the processes with the Mexican government have also evolved, so now they can get their vehicle permit online. And they just stop at either at the tent or in CITEP just to get a stamp, because now you can get your personal permit also online. So just as the I-94 coming into the US, you can get it online and you just stop with CBP and get a stamp. Same thing with the Mexican government. You get it online. We had several people stopping at the tent and they had their their printed permit, and they just went, get a stamp, and
Less chances of harassment.
exactly,
Yeah.
less chances of anything,
More
they don't have to
vidas.
stop, they don't have to.
When you say 1,300,000 cars, that means all in a row?
1,300.
1,300 all in a row?
They all went
Yes.
to caravan.
Yeah.
So,
What if you need to stop for gas? Everybody stops for gas?
Yeah.
yes, and they have, so this is,
There's
that's,
safety in numbers.
I know, but
But you know what's going on, I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
Really is a lot.
Yeah, that's a
But you
specific
said,
group.
you said 1,300 overall.
No,
No, no, no,
that was
it's
just
just
one.
that.
Just in the
So there's,
One after another?
there's two,
Yeah.
there's a group and then there's a
They
regular.
schedule like the
So
stops.
there's an
So
association
schedule.
called
They
Migrantes
have a
Unidos
set.
en
Bathroom
Caravana.
stops.
Really?
And so it's a group that started with a priest from Querétaro. And they started, a priest and a congress member from Querétaro created this group 12 years ago. And so they started with a few vehicles, people that were going to a specific town in the mountains of Querétaro. And they started with a few cars. This year they had more than they ever seen. And it's a nonprofit, mind you. It's not their main job. It's not.
They don't pay a fee to
They
be
don't pay a
I
fee.
just think it's a good idea.
Exactly,
because of
but
the
they're very
structures
well
and safety
organized.
numbers.
They have stickers on each vehicle, so they know which vehicles are part of the caravan. They have Mexican customs there, they had Mexican immigration there. So everybody gets processed at Walmart, in the parking lot of Walmart.
So they all take off together and they
Exactly.
travel in the caravan, and what does that do to the transportation system in Mexico? I mean, you know, if you're traveling caravan.
To see it's amazing, it's just, and they have,
Especially
Miles
from
long.
Laredo to Monterrey.
Exactly.
It like.
It's
you
one-
can
one
go
big line.
parade, yeah.
I mean, it's very,
The parade.
But they have,
they don't have advice, but they have to travel during.
so they
Yes.
have,
It's just like-
What if you're not part of it?
ED.
No,
And
no,
they have,
no,
they
it's like
have
stopping. It's like you're on the
EMS
bridge.
from the different towns.
So as they
Um,
travel and, you know, into a town, or they get escorted, you know, from one town to another, then somebody else takes over and then they go from the.
Yes.
Yeah.
So every time they change state, somebody else, they come with, let's say, Jalpan, Querétaro, Corregidora, several towns in Querétaro send units, PD units,
Oh,
and EMS. So they're escorted the whole way. But then Tamaulipas state troopers escort them in Tamaulipas. And then they pass them on to Nuevo León state troopers, and so on.
Well, that's
But
organized.
think about the
Yeah,
that's
good
very
that
organized.
they bring,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
It's because at first
It's
I
an
heard like
enormous
the first
service.
couple of paisanos that crossed, that they were getting
Yeah.
hit with like $1,500 worth of fees from the,
From customs?
no.
From the back.
Yeah,
The bad guys that they were,
Yeah.
it was like a quota to cross, when it first started. I
Yes.
guess that caravan means security numbers where you can't stop everybody, they're just all gonna go.
The caravan, and we've had
They're
several
overwhelmed like
meetings.
everybody else, I hope.
We start meeting with our groups in October, but the Mexican government starts even earlier. Like you have army and you have customs and you have everybody at the table, and they invited us to be part of those meetings, so we've met with them. Just in how, and Municipio de Nuevo Laredo, of course, is very present in everything they're doing.
And they
And so-
haven't, I guess the cartels have not infiltrated that part of, you know, the system, you know, when, you know, they get involved, everybody that's working to the.
No, because there's no money. They don't get charged.
No, but I know, but they could start, you know,
Extortion.
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 Yeah.
And
But
so-
no, they created
And that's very
this
good though,
group,
because
yeah.
it's a nice thing to do, you know, the reputation and, you know, the safety issue is, I mean, to them, I'm sure is enormous.
And I got a call from the president of this association. They came back, I believe Monday or Tuesday, and that they were fine, everybody came back. Because they come back, a lot of them come back on their own, but a big group comes back all together after.
Well, you
the
heard
advice.
the incidences, you know, that happen, you know, that,
Yes.
you know, and it's like, okay, I mean, it's just one incident that really,
Yeah.
you know, puts to.
So no, they called me and they were like, we're back, we're good. So that's the big caravan, and then the other one is the one we have the rest stop. All those that are traveling right before Christmas, because they either have kids or they could have taken more
How
days of
many
vacation.
people did you have at the rest stop?
We counted around 3,000 people
Wow.
stopping at the rest stop. There's some people
That's
that
not counting the cars.
yes, not people in the car, not people that
Passengers.
That was a caravan?
not
So
passengers.
3,000 that got down,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they walked into the
and
town.
they don't come
When
for
I
low.
started that,
Yeah.
when I started that, I asked Blasita, I said, do you think the Mexican government would even want to do this with us? I mean, let's just try it for a year and see how it works.
And 20.
20, how many
what?
years
22 years
later?
later.
I mean, it's a miracle. Because I thought, why do they have to wait? Why not
Is it-
expedite it?
Yes, is this the only border that does that?
Oh, heck yeah.
Last year they tried to do El Paso
I-
and it didn't.
It didn't work.
Didn't
I
work.
tried to talk, I went to talk to the other mayors and showed them an example of how we were doing it. And they thought we were nuts to even, give the
Yeah,
people
really.
that kind of service. We're not gonna spend our time
And it
doing
also
that.
helps that our geographic location, as with everything.
Yes,
Exactly.
geographically.
It just we're blessed with that.
Yes,
it's
we know
less.
that we are geographically at the right.
And
Yes.
they cross through bridge number 2, right? Or they-
Most of them, although we do have what we do is big caravan crosses through Bridge 2.
Yeah.
That one for sure.
Yes, the big one.
The other ones, the
They
people that
use-
trickle in, we point them to and we had this year is the first time we had a screen with a live feed of the bridges.
Oh, wow.
So in previous years, we have a person from Bridge calling and writing down on a board wait times. This year, we had the live feed. So
That
we
is
point them
excellent.
to where we see
Every
that there's
year it's
less
gotten
people.
better.
Yeah.
You
I
learn,
saw
you know,
online a
you
few
really learn
posts like recommending to cross through.
Colombia.
Colombia. Oh, that's on the way back.
Yeah.
So on the way back, we were trying to assist them in terms of, there were a lot, and I came back on Friday. Thank God I was flying, and so I crossed walking, because if I had tried to cross on a vehicle,
Forget
Oh my
it.
God,
it would have been,
hours.
I have friends that were stuck there for like 4 hours.
Get your
And
century.
so, I already applied,
Okay.
but it's stuck. Juan and I are stuck, but right now ya pasó.
There you go.
But it's been like 3 months. But we give them the options, and so marketing created that post of just make sure Nuevo Laredo there's a lot of traffic. We're giving you this option of Colombia to come back, so that you have an easier return.
So you give them the option.
Yeah, so we were trying to communicate that to the paisanos coming back and to our visitors, because we want our visitors to keep coming
Yes.
even during
That's
those
like
days.
like an additional 30-minute just drive from the
Yes.
Bridge 1 to the Columbia Bridge.
To the Columbia Bridge, but then it's, like, there's people that rather drive the 30 minutes or
And then come and
spend the hour
If
and
you're
just go
coming from Nuevo
straight.
Leon, it's not as bad.
Coming from
Yeah.
Nuevo Leon, you
Yeah.
just take the exit. If you're already in Nuevo Laredo, then you have to drive,
Yeah, but it'll be shorter than staying 4 hours.
Exactly.
and,
Way
you know,
shorter.
Rather 30 minutes.
waiting 4 hours on the bridge.
Yeah, the only ones affected there is Nuevo Laredo. It's the ones
Yeah.
in Nuevo
Exactly.
Laredo, because I don't think they would probably be big fans of, all these
Moving
large
people.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we did see, the line was pretty long, pretty far on Friday.
At
and-
one point.
I mean,
Maybe they should consider, a certain hour at night or during the, to be able to
They
cross.
do it, don't worry.
to cross into Mexico, they plan it, so they leave, around 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
To come back is a little bit trickier, because they don't
But
know.
they only do it in, they don't
No,
do
they-
the whole guidance back, do they?
No, they do.
They do?
They do. They came back Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember, but I got the call.
But nobody complained. I talked to a lot of people that just stopped to get gas and stuff, and they didn't complain. They were used to the wait times, they were expecting the wait times, but it was not like no big deal. They were prepared. And
Because the
they-
alternative is a lot worse than
Yeah,
wait.
and they were happy with, being able to go see their relatives and
Yeah.
and then coming back.
As long as you
It's
have a plan
amazing.
for them, that they can follow, that
Yeah.
it'll expedite their trip, that'll
That
make it
it's not an
safer.
unknown.
And it's, I mean, you're not going just,
Yeah.
into danger, you don't know where,
On
you
your
know,
own.
the pit stop.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps the commuter lane at the bridge for
Oh,
those that
yes.
are locals and wanna
Yes.
come
Yeah,
back
help
or
with that.
coming to Laredo. It helps a lot.
Well,
Do
congratulations.
they respect that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Respect
they do.
the lane?
Yes, you need to
Oh,
find,
absolutely.
ID?
ID.
Oh, okay.
Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, just so they know the local name.
That's pretty cool. Good job.
Okay, I guess no questions on the activity reports, committee. Then we'll move over to the discussion and announcements. We're showing here our next meeting date would be February the 6th of 2020.
February 6th.
I will be in Anaheim. I will be telling you.
Are you guys gonna be part of the,
Oh, it's a conference, a mandatory conference for work. So we'll be out.
Is it
Are
a
you
fun
flying
place that you're
out?
going?
When are you,
I know, right? We just started.
when are you opening?
We're hoping to open the beginning of March, so
Okay.
we'll see. Maybe, yes, we're excited, yeah.
Let us know and we can.
Thank you, yes.
oh, the new hotel on
Hotels.
Jackson?
Promote that
Yes.
way and stuff.
Yes. Yes, we still owe you a visit, a tour. yeah.
The Embassy Suites and the Homewood Suites are the ones that I frequent, just to check on their, because I know the managers. And they were like up to
Yeah.
Yeah.
completely full.
I did several interviews and that was one thing, like, make sure you do your reservation on with time. And if you're a local, don't,
Don't expect you.
exactly, just be patient with us. We'll get through this, it's just temporary, so.
You guys saw a huge uptick in social media
And we have
connections and,
yeah, even the download of the app, we did see an
And
increase, yeah.
That's good.
Of all of those 3,000 people, were there any that stayed overnight, one night
Yes.
or 2 nights?
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
we do have people that stay overnight and we provide that information at the stop, at the rest stop.
So we should have a good report for
Yeah,
That justifies
For
them.
for December,
yeah, yeah, we should have good numbers for that. And we actually saw, just as a final note, we saw that the weekend of, Día de la Revolución, so the kickoff,
Yes.
we saw an increase.
Yeah, I was gonna make a comment on that. We saw more traffic coming from Mexico than Paisanos.
It's,
So,
more traffic.
Yes, it's economic.
yes, more visitors, which is really good, right? Than Paisanos, because Paisanos, yes, like, a lot of them stay, but depending on the hours, like they're last minute, they book last minute. It's a little bit different with visitors.
Right.
With visitors
like
that walk
walk-ins,
in, yes,
walk-ins,
yes.
It'd be interesting to see the sales tax jump from one weekend to the next weekend, the Pasana weekend. All sales tax, hotel, gas, food, everything, restaurants.
Goes up, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big economic impact on the city.
It's a great economic impact.
What happens, I don't remember this, when you pay a sales tax and then you get a manifesto, and you get that sales tax back, how does that
Register.
even out?
that affects the city, doesn't it?
Yeah, we don't get that.
Well, all taxing entities are affected, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, but
and it's very
But you
specific
may not
items.
get the manifesto from the place you bought it. You might get it
No.
somewhere else. So the place that bought it is reporting the sales tax.
But then it gets deducted.
But they pay it to the
So-
city.
But
They
the
should have an
manifesto,
exemption.
Well, say you buy something at Walmart.
Uh-huh.
Walmart pays the sales tax.
Uh-huh.
And they take it to that agency and they deduct that from the sales tax of that day, overall.
Overall.
Yes.
They don't know where it came from. I mean, they know where
Yeah,
it
they
came
know.
from.
But
Yeah,
they're
they-
not giving it back to Walmart.
Right.
Yeah.
So when she gets the figures of the sales tax, it's already,
It should be
it's
included.
already declared.
Unless,
They didn't check.
unless they waited a month, I think it's for 30 days, but it'll get
It used to be
paid.
that, it used to be that you would get through manifesto, and you would have to go to that store. So if it's Walmart, you have to go to Walmart and present your
Yeah,
passport.
no,
That's what I've been saying, and I think you
No,
can
no,
do that.
this is the old way, you would get your check, but the new way is you have to go to every
store.
store.
And you have one manifesto for Walmart,
Yeah.
another manifesto
For
for
Best
Best Buy,
Buy,
another
Oh,
manifesto for
okay.
Ross, another manifesto for.
So they have to go to the,
Yes,
to
store.
the store where they put the.
Ajá.
Oh, okay.
So in a way, it's good because not everybody will
Before you
go
would
back.
to the office and then
especially
you would get a
late
check
night.
in the mail.
So then, when the store reports their sales tax, it's already net.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct. Yes.
yeah.
But if they're high volume, I really doubt that you're gonna say $5 back. You're gonna pay like $3 to get the manifesto for $2, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's
a lot of
also
people-
not all the items.
All the
don't
items.
stand
It just
by
says
it.
No, and the people say, ah, that's not.
Sometimes the money will stay here, then when I use it because of
You have to go to the store.
Right.
and order.
Yeah.
You have to go to the.
And you need to wait for
To make it
8
harder.
hours.
No, I mean, why have the manifesto?
Get the
I
manifestos.
mean, it's just sales.
Some people
You
go.
have
Well,
to
it's
wait
in the, it's in the.
Oh, you have to wait 8 hours to get your
48.
sales.
48 hours.
Oh, 48 hours, oh, no.
But do they mail
That's
it
a lot.
to you?
They're already gone.
You need
Yeah,
to-
that's
They
okay.
used to mail it
Now
to you.
you need to go to the store and.
They're
do
just
your
making it more difficult.
Well, it is, so they can, so they won't go and.
Make a
Yeah.
return. But you have
So
one
we
year
can
to.
keep it more.
That's
Go
right,
back
so
to the
they can
money.
make more
We're
sense.
so
They're gonna be like, I
tricky.
can't, I don't wanna wait.
Yeah, we're
Instead of
asking
saying
questions about
no
social
sales tax return, we just make it more difficult.
Yeah.
We're so smart and pinche.
I guess it's a lot of work for the store to
Yeah, yeah,
If I wasn't that covered,
that's
the
true.
help.
Okay,
So it
well,
looks at the.
Any other comments that we need to bring up?
No, I
to our
don't think so,
meeting?
after.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Great meeting.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.